This is part 2 of talking with Tim Moen, who is a professional cartoonist. He's worked for Disney. He's done all kinds of amazing things. This interview actually went a bit longer than some of our others, and he gave some really great information about his move to the East Tennessee area. So in this part 2, we're going to talk about his experience and some insights that he learned when he moved here. So if you want to hear about his cartoon courses and get your kids enrolled, check out part 1. And in part 2, let's hear about his termite and water experience that is super helpful if you are moving to the East Tennessee area.
I wouldn't say that a student has to have, in fact, that's kind of one of my goals, is to be able to kind of meet students where they're at, especially with the older student classes, just because when they're older, they could be out doing anything else.
Right.
And if they're in a class like that, it means that they're showing interest.
Right.
And yeah, so it would kind of be like wherever a student is at, I would just try to kind of meet them there and do what people had done for me over the years.
Yeah, that's cool. So if people want to enroll their kiddo, where should they go? What should they do?
Okay, so the website is moencartooncourses.com, and there's a course catalog on there where they can see what courses we offer, and then there's a way to register and pay for the classes online.
And all the dates are there, the times are there, like it's all the information is there.
All the stuff's in the catalog. And there's also a section for events. And so like, for example, we're doing an event at the Seymour Library in April on the 22nd, and it's gonna be from 4 to 5.
Cool.
It's just basically kind of a 1-hour presentation where I'm gonna do a drawing demonstration, and I'll talk about my career in animation a little bit, and they have a nice screen there so I can hook my computer up and show stuff to the kids. And we'll do a kind of a drawing session where, I'll do some guided drawing and people can follow.
Yeah.
And question answer, and that's basically it. It's just kind of introducing our courses and our company to the community.
Yeah.
And the website will have information about that event on there, and I'm going to be posting as there are more events to post. I will put them up there, and we have a Facebook and an Instagram, and it's all the same thing. Moen Cartoon Courses is the name. So Moen is spelled M-O-E-N, and it's just cartoon courses, and it's all one word in the URL, on the Facebook, on the Instagram. So
go like, go follow, go check out the website, go do all the things. Is there anything I haven't asked you that you're like, we gotta cover this, we gotta talk about it? I actually have so many more questions, but it's just for selfish reasons. Well, I just think it's fascinating. I'm like, I do want to ask you this.
Yeah.
With all this like AI nonsense, how does that impact your industry? Does it impact your industry? Like, what does that look like?
Yes and no. It's a big question, but I'll kind of do my best to answer it. So AI is really just a fancy word for saying computer program. And it is.
No, you're right.
It's just like an extremely fancy computer program.
Yeah, it is.
But with all computer programs, what it turns out is based on what you put into it.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit weird right now, and you're of the age probably where you remember Napster and LimeWire and Kazaa and those things, right?
Gosh, I used to spend hours on Napster.
And it was totally illegal to download
100%.
that music. But when we did it, like that came out when I was in 7th grade. When we did it, we didn't know that.
Yeah.
Like, it was just kind of like, there's music and it's free and let's just copy it. And we didn't know about the copyright laws, but apparently Congress also didn't quite understand. Like, they had hearings about it. They had to toughen up the laws and put some teeth into the laws. There were lawsuits about it.
Right.
And we're kind of like living through that again with AI, because companies, like there's a company called, I think it's called Midjourney, and the guy who started that, I had read an article where someone kind of questioned him and said, hey, your company is turning out these things that look like Pixar images. And so, are you kind of scraping the internet for existing copyrighted work like by Pixar or Disney or whoever, and feeding that into your program, your AI machine learning? And that's how your thing is spitting out these incredible images. And he's basically like, yeah. And it's like, I get that people think that AI is going to like just literally replace everything. Like you have people who are super for it, who are like, yes, we need AI right now. And then you have people
Right.
who are really against it, who are like, and the truth
Right.
is, people are like way overselling AI, in my personal opinion, because I'm like, it's not legal, and it won't really, I mean, it shouldn't really continue to be legal to take copyrighted works
Right.
and feed it in, whether that's for like writing a book with AI, because
Right.
where do you think it learns how to write? It learns how to write from copyrighted material,
Right.
or like visual stuff. So in my case, you know, in my industry, it's not as, I'll put it this way, studios are wanting to use AI and they're already doing it, but I think they understand that they can't risk using copyrighted, you know, inputs
Right.
into that program.
Right.
So they're feeding it with their own stuff. So they might hire artists to feed a machine with original human artwork
Right.
that they paid for
I got you.
by hiring
Okay.
those artists.
Yeah.
So it's not as, to me, that's not as detrimental as
Right.
kind of like the Napster AI that kind of
Mhm.
currently exists, that people like posts up on Instagram and, you know, and use like for YouTube images and stuff like that.
For everything. Yeah, that's an
But-
interesting. That's a really good take. I feel.
But the industry is definitely changing too, because things are kind of decentralizing from California.
Yeah.
And I went to, you asked me about stuff I wanted to talk about,
Yeah.
and I just thought of this now,
Yeah.
that's why I'm bringing this up.
Yeah.
And you're kind of talking about the state of the industry.
Yeah.
Is I went to a convention in Nashville
Mhm.
called Animation Y'all,
Yeah.
and it was dubbed the South's first animation convention. And so there's a university out there called Lipscomb University,
Yep.
and there are some faculty there, two of which are these brothers that were Disney animators and directors. Like one of them directed Mulan, and they've worked on like Beauty and the Beast and Lion King and Little Mermaid
Yeah.
and all these things. And so they're running a really cool animation program out there. And like we talked about VeggieTales. VeggieTales was produced in Tennessee. It was produced in Nashville. So there's kind of like this small budding animation industry.
Yeah.
And that convention, there were quite a few people who showed up. I think there was like 700 for
Oh,
the
wow.
first year.
Yeah.
That's probably only going to get bigger as
Right.
time goes on, because there was someone from the governor's office was talking about, they did a lecture on two things. First of all, there's an officially state-filed trade association for animation industry workers in Tennessee. It's called the Tennessee Animation Association.
Oh.
If you're a professional animation artist, you can register on this thing, and then if there are jobs, or if there are people who are looking for artists like
Yeah.
that there's a database for that now.
That's cool.
The other thing is that I haven't heard how far this has gotten, but that rep was there because she was saying we want to investigate tax credits or tax incentives to bring animation work to the state of Tennessee.
Oh.
And they've done this in other places like Georgia.
Yeah.
And then a lot of big Hollywood productions are filmed there, and
Right.
it brings a lot of commerce to those areas, and people move there, and there's
Right.
whole towns and communities that are based around the movie production that goes on there.
Yeah.
So Tennessee is interesting in that it's probably one of the only other states that's really taking animation seriously like that, and I'm really kind of curious to see what it will be like in maybe 10 years
Yeah.
with more people moving here from other states. And that's why you do
Yeah.
what you do, right? You help
Right,
people
yeah,
find
totally,
where to
yeah.
live when they live here, when they
Right.
move here.
Right. Yeah. No, that's cool. That's really neat. Well, that makes me proud of Tennessee, because I'm like, I think sometimes people are like, you guys are just podunk, but it makes me glad when we have we do cool things other than football. We do football and all the sports. But okay, and speaking of that, so you moved to Seymour.
Yeah.
How did you find Seymour? Would you recommend it?
Okay, so the first question. We moved, I guess I won't talk too much about why we moved out of California.
Yeah.
I'll talk more about what drew us here.
Yeah.
Was, first of all, I'm from New York,
Yeah.
so I like four seasons.
Yeah.
And they have that in Tennessee.
Yes.
We wanted a place that was a little bit better cost of living, lower taxes, generally speaking, more freedom. And so in a lot of situations that you're looking for that situation, I mean, you're going to be looking in the South.
Right.
But what the South is also known for is sort of, I lived in Florida for 2 years. They have
Mhm.
one season there. Or two
Hot.
if you count extremely hot as a season.
Humid.
Yes. And a lot of places in the South get tornadoes. Not to say that we can't get them here. You can get them anywhere.
Right.
Even where I grew up, it was possible to get them, and we had them. But I just kind of thought Tennessee kind of fits a lot of what we're looking for. And my wife felt this way too. But East Tennessee specifically gets a lot less tornadoes than kind of like the Cumberland Plateau and West. And so I was like, what's in East Tennessee? I don't really know the area very well.
Right.
Well, there's a city, Knoxville, there.
Right.
And so we got a real estate agent before we knew about you online, and
Yeah.
she did video tours, and we didn't even come here.
Yeah.
It was like a total gamble. And it was during COVID too.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit.
Wow, yeah, so it was, yeah.
Yeah. It was later. It was like, it depends on how you define
Yeah.
COVID. Like in California, like I think
It was different here.
COVID's still going on for like 8 more years in California, but it was in 2021 when we were
Right.
buying, it was
Yes.
still going on in California.
Yes.
And so, and we looked at a few different places. I think there was one in Oak Ridge, but then she said, well, there's a house in Seymour, and we looked at it, and it had a beautiful property.
Yeah.
And Sarah, my wife, she went on Google Street View and kind of like drove around to the neighborhood and was like, oh, this is a nice neighborhood, and we kind of liked it. And the other this was a little bit of a random thing, but one of my older brothers had a friend from Long Island that he knew who moved to Seymour in like 2007 or something, so a long time ago.
Right.
And he just happened to live in Seymour of all places.
Right.
And so I called him, and he said, yeah, it's great here. It's it's quiet. It's it's nice, and you can get a lot of house for a lot less money than it would be in like California. And so we just kind of took a gamble on Seymour, and like the thing was at that time, I don't know what it's like now, but at that time, if you were interested in buying a house, you kind of had to make an offer the same day because it was like gone.
Yeah.
Like if you waited a day, it was not going to be there the next morning.
Yeah.
So we made an offer, and then we came out when the house was in escrow because there was a 4th of July weekend and I had a little time from work, and we just kind of like, let's go visit this house that we bought. And my parents and that same brother, they happened to be on vacation in Pigeon Forge.
Oh, perfect.
And so, my parents were like, let's take a little detour and go see this house that you just bought because it's not terribly far. And they liked it. And then they heard about a house that was for sale around the street, and they, like, long story short, they bought it that day, basically. I mean, it was kind of crazy.
I didn't know that. I didn't realize
yes,
that.
they, like, my mom gave the guy a check. It was like the house, I don't even think it was officially on the market.
Yeah.
It was like neighborhood chatter, like, oh, this family is moving, they're going to put their house on the market.
Right.
My mom went and talked to the guy, and my dad just, like, kind of stood there with his mouth open, like, I can't believe you just bought a house, like... But yeah, they just liked that it was, kind of close to where we were.
Yeah.
And they liked the neighborhood, and something, now getting to the do I like Seymour? What do we think of Seymour?
Yeah.
Yeah, we really like Seymour, and one of the things that there's no way we could have known this when we bought the place, but that we've been pleasantly surprised by has been how central it is to everywhere.
Yes.
Like if you want to go to Sevierville, that's like 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Or if you want to go to like vacation headquarters like Gatlinburg or Pigeon Forge, that's like 30 or 40.
Notice he said vacation headquarters. Just I agree with that. Yeah.
But then there's like Knoxville is like, I mean, technically we're in Knoxville right now, and it took me, I don't know, 20 or 25 minutes to get here. If I went downtown for a little bit more like arts and culture or something, like go to the Tennessee Theater or something like that, that's like 30 minutes or something. Maryville, which is a beautiful college town, that's 25 minutes from where we live, and it's kind of very central to everything. Some things are a little farther, but we do most of our grocery shopping. We go to Walmart, and so it's either going to be the one here in South Knox, which is like about 17 minutes from our house, or since my wife works in Maryville, it will be, it's far from our, it's like, that one is probably like 25, 30 minutes from our house, but it's like 5 minutes from her work.
Right,
so.
that makes sense.
So that's kind of it. But we do, we'll shop locally in Seymour too, like at Food City or Kroger sometimes. And so, yeah.
Any like things you wish you would have known before you moved here that you're like, I wish we would have known?
I would say there were kind of two somewhat related things. So our house had some problems. Our particular house, this is not so much to do with Seymour, but it is a little bit to do with generally East Tennessee, kind of the property that you have here. Our house was vacant basically for like 12 years or 13 years. Like there was the couple that owned it lived in Texas, and they would travel maybe once a year, or the neighbor said like sometimes they came like every other year.
Yeah.
And just stayed for like a week long, and then that was it. So it was not really used. But what they didn't do is they never protected it with termite, like any kind of termite barrier or any kind of termite bait or anything like that. And termites are a very big problem out here. And I had told the neighbor about this, and she goes, "Oh yeah, we dealt with that many years ago." And our community was only like 20 years old. So what it was kind of saying to me was the houses were built in the early 2000s. And then at some point within maybe the first 10 years or so, they got termites, and people had to tear walls out of their homes and stuff like that. So if you're gonna buy a house, that's definitely something I would inspect for, is either termite damage or termite protection. And that's gonna either be Thermidor, which is like a barrier kind of liquid that they shoot into the perimeter, like your foundation, and that can last maybe for like 10 years or something. Or, what do you call it? Centric, which is actually more like, it doesn't kill the termites, it attracts them to traps that are away from your house, and then people come and they kind of inspect the traps, and they'll reload the bait every so often. So, but termites definitely turn into a big deal, and the reason that our house had termite damage was because there's a lot of hills here.
What?
And, and so our house was built into a hill where it was kind of like, this is our house, and the hill was kind of built like this, and there was not really a place for the water to go. Yeah. And they didn't build it with a good French drain, like that aspect, like the build quality of that particular house, even though it wasn't super duper old, it was like they did not think about the drainage very well. And that's kind of the other thing in East Tennessee that you have to be concerned about, is like, you need to have runoff going away from your house. Yeah. You need to have, if you don't have that, you need to have really good drainage underground, like French drains that are taking stuff out. You need to have like discrete, other kind of gutter drains that are not going into your French drain system. It might be like multiple drains underground that and that costs a lot of money, and that's why contractors generally don't put it in. It costs a lot of money. So if you're gonna look for a house, I would say try to find one that has that drainage problem solved, where like you see that the water is gonna shed away from your house when it comes off the roof, and you're not gonna get flooding against your house, because what happened with ours was flooding happened against the house. We would get standing water in the torrential storms that we get around here. And then that made the sill plate soggy. And when you get wet wood, that's what attracts termites. So and that's what caused, so it's like, yes, you have to be concerned about termites, but kind of the preventative, the bigger thing is you need to look for houses that have your drainage situation solved. Because the soil here is like red clay. It's like very dense, and it doesn't, we can get flash floods here because it doesn't soak into the ground right away. It's not a lot of topsoil. Where I grew up, we had like, 8 or 10 inches of topsoil, because it was like potato farms. That's where our houses were built. But here it's not like that, and so it's just a concern that kind of shocked me, and I had no idea about it at all. It's a little quirky. Maybe it's an East Tennessee thing.
Well, definitely is an East Tennessee thing. Both of those for sure. Cool, awesome. Okay, so MoenCartoonCourses.com.
Yes.
So go check that out.
Yep.
Anything else you've missed?
I think so.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay,
thank you.
Courses start in May. Go to the website, check the events, but you can register online for the courses. So if you know a kid, if you've got kiddos, if you know you're an aunt, you're an uncle, whoever, send them. Send them. So, anyways, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
All right. I hope you have enjoyed listening to Tim. He is amazing. Again, go check out part 1. Listen to everything about his cartoon courses, why he got into that, and his professional experience as a professional cartoonist. I hope this has been helpful. As always, click subscribe. I've got so much more to share with you. I'm Haley Jones. Have a good one.